Hey everyone, welcome to 2 Car Pros. My name is Ryan, and today we're going to be continuing with part 8 of our how to build a Ford 302 Windsor. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor for today's video, Summit Racing. They have sent me an absolutely astounding amount of totally amazing parts. They're an incredible sponsor to deal with. This build would not be happening without their tremendous support, so make sure you buy all your speed parts from summitracing.com. So in today's video, we are going to be putting on our intake manifold, priming the engine with oil, and then putting our valve covers on. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but there is a lot to it, and everything matters at this stage. All the little details are super important, so make sure you're paying attention and we can get all this correct on the first try. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in. Alrighty, so now we can put on our intake manifold, and this is a stage 2 intake manifold sent over by Summit Racing. The part number is down below. And stage 2 basically means you're gonna make more power because the intake runners are bigger, and the ports where they match up are bigger, and everything's gonna flow better, means more power. So it's all aluminum, made by Summit Racing, and again, that link is down below in the description, and it did come with some plugs that you can use to block off coolant passages or vacuum passages. Then, for gaskets, we're gonna be using these Pros. There's our part number, link down below in the description. These are fantastic, and we have some bolts, again, made by Summit Racing, and link is down below in the description. So what you want to do too is grab some carburetor spray. I'll show you how to do a little bit. Spray in through your ports and all around. Get some compressed air and blow through, and do that for basically every opening on this thing, just in case there's some metal chips you can't quite see. You really don't want that in your engine. Okay, so what we're going to do is around the water passages, we're going to get some silicone rubber and apply it around. There we go, we're gonna do that. I put some spray adhesive on our gasket here. I'm gonna line that up on there, apply it, remove it back off, apply it down again. And when you're lining this up, you wanna make sure that your intake ports are not obstructed by the gasket material. You wanna make sure that there's nothing impeding air and fuel getting in there. Just make sure it's nice and lined up like that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. We'll do that for both sides. So on our front and rear here, for our seal on our lifter valley, some people use the cork gaskets that came along with our kit. In our experience, those just kind of spit right out. Not usually the hot taquito. So what we like to do is use our best friend, silicone rubber. And we're gonna start here, kind of at the top, and we're gonna lay a decently thick bead down, because that needs to take up gap space. You know, kind of like you're frosting a cake. And don't be afraid if you don't get it perfect. You can always wipe it off and try again. You can modify it using your finger, as long as you have a glove on or something. You can always remove and add more. So this is a nice and flexible way to get a seal. Something like that. All right, and on the back we can do the same thing. We're gonna go from here, down and around and up to here. And if you don't have one of these plugs put in, make sure you install them. There we go, should look something like that. So I've actually already lowered it down and taken it back off just because it needed a much taller bead of silicone rubber on the front and the back. That's the front. So that is completely necessary. So you need to build you kind of need to build a dam of silicone rubber before you put the intake on. All right, so we can grab our cleaned intake manifold, and when you're lowering this straight down, it has to be just that, straight down. You can't move it back and forth. It kind of needs to be dead nuts on when you lower it on down. All our bolt holes lined up, looks good. So once your intake's on, you can go around to the front and the back, and you see how the silicone rubber's kind of squished out. This is exactly what you want to see, some squish coming out, and don't attempt to, wipe it away with your finger. Leave it how it is. Alrighty, you might notice that I've put some tape over where our fuel injection or carburetor would be sitting, so nothing can get down in the engine that we don't want. We can grab our 1/2-inch size bolts with their washer and just start threading those in. Alrighty, all my bolts have been started, which you want to do before you try to tighten any of them. Make sure that the threads are started, and I'm just going to put them down by finger tight, and I'm going to go in my spiral pattern. I like to go clockwise from the inside out. And I'm just putting these down finger tight. They're probably not even a foot-pound. There we go. They're all kind of slunked down just a touch. So now that our intake is nice and brought down level, these bolts aren't very tight at all. We can go ahead and follow our tightening instructions. We're going to be following this sequence from here forth. So we can put that out so it lines up with our engine. Very cool. And our first torque value is going to be 10 foot-pounds, starting on number 1, which is this guy right here. $10, very good. 2 is over here. 3 is this one. 4 is this one. 5 is this guy. 6 is over here. 7's over here. 8 is across from that. 9 is this one. 10 is over here. 11 is this one. And the final one is this guy over here. All right, so this is where it kind of diverges a little bit. If you have aluminum heads, which we do, your final torque figure is going to be 18 foot-pounds. Now, if you have iron heads, your final figure is going to be 24 foot-pounds. So we can go ahead and put our torque wrench up to 18 foot-pounds. Okay, we're at 18, and just start our sequence over again. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and number 12 is this guy. Very cool, all torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. Okay, so once you've gotten to this stage, go ahead and check them again with 18 foot-pounds or 24 if you have iron, and just check the torque values again, because as this is getting lowered, the gasket is swedging out, and you want to account for that. All right, so now we can worry about our thermostat and our thermostat housing. Here is the thermostat you need, made by Summit Racing, linked down below in the description, but because we are not putting this engine directly into a vehicle, we're going to the dyno first, and our dyno guy says he does not want any thermostats. We will not be installing this today, but if you were installing it, you would be putting it in now and then putting your gasket on top of it. So here are the bolts. They are different sizes as far as length goes, and I will leave a link down below in the description to those bad boys as well. So if you were going to use this thermostat, you'd be gluing it in its home, so that way it doesn't fall out while you're trying to install it. But we're not doing that here today because we're going to the dyno. But what we are going to be doing is contact cementing this gasket to our housing. Line up your holes like that. That looks perfect. Spray that on. Apply it. Just make sure it's all nice and lined up. Take it back off, apply it back down. Line everything up so it's perfect. Hold it in place while the contact cement does its magic. And there we go. All right, and then we're gonna grab our old friend silicone rubber, and we're going to apply a film around where the water is going to be going. And then around this as well, because water goes through here too. There we go, that looks great. Alrighty, with our bolts loaded up, go ahead and install the housing here. There we go. Can snug these up. I'm just gonna do a couple turns on each, but on the one on the right side, you're actually gonna have to use a wrench. There's really no way to get to it. And do this as evenly as you can. It's pretty snug. Feels pretty good. And you don't want to go crazy because this is aluminum. You pull the threads right out. Perfect, nice and snug. So here's our oil filter, link down below in the description. And what we're going to do is, you could use regular engine oil for this, but because we're running a flat tappet cam, you have to run this anyway. This is zinc additive because modern engine oil does not have any zinc in it. You have to put it. What I'm gonna do, just like a regular engine oil filter change, we're gonna apply some oil to the O-ring here. And because we're doing a first startup, it's a really good idea to at least put some in the filter. You don't need to top it, you don't need to brim it or anything because it's at an angle. It's gonna be dumping out anyway. Just, you know, a little bit in there, about maybe a third full. So now we can put our oil filter on. Spinning that on by hand, just like this. With oil filters, you typically get them tight, and then, just like it says on the label, 3/4 turn additionally. Just don't use any tools. There we go, perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna put our engine oil in so we can prime our engine. Now, normally you would add oil through the valve cover, you know, like normal. But since we don't have valve covers and we're missing a distributor, we're just gonna plop a funnel down and just put our oil through there. And the first thing I'm gonna add is our very nice zinc additive, linked down below in the description. So I make sure every single drop of this zinc additive gets in our system, as you should really be putting a whole bottle in upon break-in, and as general maintenance, definitely keep putting zinc in a flat tappet cam engine. And then I have some 5W30 conventional engine oil. I have 5 quarts of it, and I'm just gonna put all 5 in. And there we go, 5 quarteroonies in there. We can go ahead and remove our funnel. Perfect. So what I have here is what's left of the original distributor that I took out of this 302 way back when. And I have gutted it basically, took the cap and the rotating assembly out of there and took the drive gear out. It's just a little pin you just hammer through and you can take the gear off of there. And why did I do that? Well, I wanted to make a priming tool, and say I wrote Ford on it so I know what engines it's for. And as you spin up here with a drill, it spins down here on our oil pump drive shaft, and that will prime our engine. Alternatively, you can buy these pre-made by ARP or Summit Racing, and I will leave a link down below in the description to one of those. But now we can prime our engine. So what we can do is drop our tool down in there like it's a regular distributor. Sometimes you have to rotate it to get on the drive shaft itself. There we go, I think we're on it. We're gonna get our drill, put it in the chuck, tighten it down, and then switch it so it's going counterclockwise. There we go. So while we have our drill going counterclockwise, you should be able to see oil coming right there. Oh yeah! and that's how you know your engine's primed. Once our engine is nice and primed like ours, we're gonna go ahead and remove our tool. There we go. And then just as a precaution over your distributor well, you know, just put some tape over it to prevent anything from dropping down in there. All right, now comes something I've been looking forward to since we started this build. We get to put on our valve covers, but before I take them out of the box, we're gonna go over some of the less pretty parts. And these are our gaskets made by Summit Racing. There's our part number, link is down below in the description. And these are rubber with a metal core. So these are pretty trick and kick butt. And then our PCV valve is just a standard one. You don't need like a racing one or anything crazy. This one will do fine. Again, link is down below in the description. That's what it looks like, nothing crazy. And then to put our valve covers on our heads, I have this really cool stud kit made by TrickFlow, link down below in the description. You could just use regular bolts. These studs are kind of fun because you can put the studs in the heads and then put the gasket on and then put the valve cover on, kind of neat. And then for our breather, I got this really cool looking one made by Proform. It's licensed by Ford Performance, and it is going to match our kind of aesthetic we're going for. You could just use a regular breather, but I kind of like the look of this one. And again, the link is down below in the description. And for the moment we've been waiting for, our valve covers that are Ford Racing Blue. These look absolutely amazing. Looks like our stud kit is going to work 5/6 as well as it should. This particular valve cover has a little bit taller one right there, so we can just get a longer bolt for that. No big deal, but these look absolutely incredible and I can't wait to put them on. Alrighty, so I've already put on our studs that we had, except for this one, just because our valve covers are designed a little bit differently than expected. We can go ahead and put on our gasket. Awesome. That's another thing about studs, kind of holds everything in place for you. Okay, grab your valve cover with the bigger hole in the grommet, and we're gonna be putting them on our driver's side. We can just set them down on our gasket there. That looks great. And then for us, we're going to install these 1/4-20 threaded bolts on the top there. And grab our 12-point bolt, or nuts, excuse me, and thread those on. So we're going to start with a 15/16 12-point, and we're just going to do some stages, so just a little snugging there. And then we're going to grab a 7/16 regular socket, tighten that there, switch back to our 12-point, go in the top right corner. There we go, then the bottom left, and then the top left, and then the bottom right. So there's only 6 fasteners holding this on. So you just keep repeating that process right there until it gets nice and firm. And over time, as you tighten it, that gasket's gonna swedge out. So you just wanna keep going over it, but be careful because this is just into aluminum and you could snap it. There we go, that's my 3rd time around and it feels great. All right, now we can put our breather in, just remove this grommet. Sometimes you keep this grommet though, it just kind of depends on which breather you have. Our breather is actually pretty good size and I've lubricated that with some WD-40. You can also use engine oil. Just work that in until it gives way. And check that out. Oh, that looks good. And we can put in our PCV valve on the passenger side. Just work that in. Oh, until it looks just like that. Perfect. Now we've got both valve covers on, our engine oil filter, everything's primed. This project is moving right along. Thank you so very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future update videos we have on this 302 or 347 in our case. And we're gonna be strapping this bad boy to the dyno and I can't wait to see how much power it's gonna make. You can even super subscribe down below and help support the channel. I would really appreciate that. Make sure you check out our sponsor, Summit Racing. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you next time.